They say trust is earned, but I learned that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones sharpening the knife behind your back. You know that feeling when something's off but you can't quite put your finger on it. That's where my story begins. For 23 years I thought I had the perfect life. A successful construction business that I'd built from absolutely nothing, a beautiful wife named Diana and a business partner, Trevor, who'd been my best friend since college. We were the golden trio. Diana handled our books, Trevor managed operations, and I brought in the contracts. Life was good, life was really good, but success has a way of attracting the wrong kind of attention even from the people you trust most. It started with small things. Diana would take phone calls and step outside. Trevor would have private meetings that somehow never made it to my calendar. They'd exchange glances across the dinner table when we'd have our monthly business dinners. I told myself I was being paranoid. After all, Diana had been by my side since we were broke college kids, and Trevor had helped me lay the very first foundation of our company. The first real red flag came during a routine meeting with our accountant. He mentioned some transfers that Diana had authorized, significant amounts moving to what he called investment accounts. When I asked Diana about it later, she got defensive. Said I was micromanaging her, that I'd always trusted her with the finances before. She was right, I had. Maybe that was my first mistake, but then the calls started getting more frequent. Diana would disappear for hours at a time, claiming she was handling business matters. Trevor began insisting on managing client meetings without me, saying I needed to focus on the big picture while he handled the details. They were slowly but systematically cutting me out of my own company. The breaking point came on a Tuesday morning in March. I'd gotten food poisoning the night before, something fierce that kept me home for the first time in probably 5 years. Around noon, I decided to drive to the office to grab some files. Diana's car was in the parking lot, which was strange because she'd told me she was meeting her sister for lunch. I walked into our office and heard voices coming from the conference room. The door was slightly ajar, and what I heard made my blood run cold. "The Cayman account is ready," Diana was saying. "Another 2 weeks and we can transfer the remaining funds." Trevor's voice responded. "What about him? He's going to notice eventually." "Let him notice," Diana laughed, and it was a sound I'd never heard from her before. Cold, calculating. "By the time he figures it out, we'll be long gone. 23 years of marriage to that man, and I deserve every penny for putting up with his boring life." I stood frozen in that hallway, listening to my wife and best friend casually discuss stealing everything I'd worked for. But it got worse. "The divorce papers are ready," Trevor said. "Once Diana files, she gets half of everything anyway. Combined with what we've already moved, we're looking at about $4 million. $4 million. They weren't just planning to leave me, they were planning to destroy me completely." That's when I made a decision that would change everything. Instead of confronting them, I quietly left the office and drove straight to an electronics store. I bought a small digital recorder, the kind that could run for hours and fit in your pocket. If they wanted to play games, I'd make sure I knew all the rules. For the next 3 weeks, I recorded everything. Every conversation, every phone call I could manage, every private moment when they thought I wasn't listening. I became a spy in my own life, and what I discovered was worse than I'd imagined. They'd been planning this for over a year. Diana had been slowly siphoning money from our business accounts, moving it through a series of shell companies that Trevor had set up. They weren't just stealing my money, they'd been having an affair for 18 months. All those business trips, all those late nights working on contracts, all those family gatherings where they'd sit just a little too close. The recordings revealed everything. They'd even discussed how to make sure I wouldn't be able to rebuild after they left. Trevor had been sabotaging potential contracts, telling clients I was difficult to work with or losing my edge. Diana had been gathering personal information about our clients, planning to take them with her when they started their new company. But the worst part wasn't the money or even the affair. It was hearing Diana laugh about our marriage. 23 years of pretending to love that man, she said during one recorded conversation. "Do you know how exhausting it is to fake happiness every single day? 23 years, our entire adult lives together, and it had all been a lie." I could have confronted them. I could have filed for divorce and tried to protect what was left of our assets. But they'd planned to destroy me completely, so I decided to return the favor. I took the recordings to a lawyer first. Not just any lawyer, the best forensic accountant and criminal attorney I could find. Within a week, we traced every single transaction, every hidden account, every forged document they'd created. The evidence was overwhelming. Then I did something that probably saved my life. I went to the FBI. Financial fraud across state lines involving offshore accounts. That's federal jurisdiction. The agents who took my case were thorough, professional, and absolutely fascinated by the recordings I'd gathered. They told me to act normal, to not let on that I knew anything while they built their case. For 2 more weeks, I went through the motions. I smiled at Diana over breakfast. I reviewed contracts with Trevor. I pretended to be the clueless husband and business partner they thought I was, but inside I was counting down the days until their world collapsed. The end came on a Thursday morning. Diana was supposed to file the divorce papers that afternoon. I'd heard her confirm the appointment on one of my recordings. Trevor was planning to present the clients with an ultimatum: work with his new company or lose their contractor entirely. Instead, they both woke up to FBI agents at their doors. I was at the office when Trevor called me, his voice shaking. "Something's wrong," he said. "The FBI just seized all my financial records. They're asking about offshore accounts." I played dumb. "What offshore accounts? Trevor, what's going on?" Within an hour, Diana called. She was crying, which might have tugged at my heartstrings if I hadn't heard her laughing about destroying my life just days before. "They took my computer, my phone, everything," she sobbed. "They're saying I committed financial crimes. This is crazy. You have to help me." "Of course I'll help you," I said, and I meant it. I was helping her by making sure justice was served. The trials took 8 months. Both Diana and Trevor eventually pled guilty to multiple counts of financial fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. The prosecution played several of my recordings in court, and I'll never forget the look on their faces when they heard their own voices planning my destruction. Diana got 4 years in federal prison. Trevor got 6 apparently. His prior financial irregularities from his previous job didn't help his case. All the money was recovered, plus penalties and interest. The business survived, though I had to rebuild relationships with clients they'd tried to steal. The divorce was finalized while Diana was in prison. She got nothing. Fraud and adultery clauses in our prenup made sure of that. I kept one of the recordings on my phone for a long time after everything was settled. Sometimes, when I felt lonely or started second-guessing myself, I'd listen to Diana laughing about our fake marriage or Trevor discussing how to make sure I couldn't rebuild my life. It reminded me that trust, once broken, reveals people's true nature. And sometimes the person you think you know best is really a complete stranger who's just been wearing a mask for 23 years. Today I run the business alone. It's smaller now, but it's honest. Every transaction is clean. Every relationship is built on actual trust rather than convenience. I never remarried, but I'm not bitter about it. I learned something valuable. It's better to be alone with your integrity than surrounded by people who are planning your destruction. They thought they were so smart, moving money in the shadows, planning their perfect escape. But they forgot one crucial detail: walls have ears when you're not paying attention to who might be listening. And sometimes justice is just a recording device away.